Hello, now I'm going to start talking about labour, birth and postnatal period. As we've already discussed, we will be arranging a 36-week scan for you and an obstetric appointment so you can discuss all aspects of your care and your pregnancy care and your gestational diabetes. Some of you may have been diagnosed after the 36-week mark, so we will complete that appointment for you. We'll endeavour to help you work through those questions. That is if you haven't got a plan in place already. Now, the common questions that everybody will be wanting to know about gestational diabetes and their pregnancy and their labour is where they can have their baby. Could it be the birth centre or the hospital? Will I need to have a cesarean section? And can I go into spontaneous labour, or do I need to be induced? Another common question is, do I have to be monitored in my labour and after the baby's born? So let's talk about where you can have your baby. Now, for those of you that have stayed diet control and with some exercise, your community midwife will carry on providing your antenatal care with the support of the diabetes team weekly, as we've been doing. She can then discuss with you where you can have your baby as well as part of some of those appointments. If you do stay diet control and with no complications, you have got the opportunity to use the birth centres, either Maidstone or Crowborough, or Tunbridge Wells Hospital if you wish. Now, if you do want to use the birth centres, then please make an appointment to see the birth centre midwives, and they'll discuss it with you as well. They'll probably want to know that you've had your scan recently as well, so we can see the size of your baby. Now, for those of you that have needed some treatment for your gestational diabetes at any stage of it, we will highly recommend a delivery at the Tunbridge Wells Hospital. Okay, so let's talk about birthing your baby, and first of all we'll talk about cesarean section. Now, just because you've been diagnosed with gestational diabetes, it doesn't automatically mean you need to have a cesarean section. A few women may be advised of that, but for the majority, we'll carry on planning for vaginal birth. Okay, so let's talk about timing of your birth and induction of labour. Now, for the majority of you, we'd expect you to go into labour naturally. If you've needed some treatment for your gestational diabetes, and we get to your due date and you haven't gone into labour naturally, then you may be advised to have an induction of labour. Okay, let's talk about management of your labour and birth. Now, for those of you that have remained diet control, you won't need any extra monitoring in your labour. For those of you that have had some treatment, a birth plan will be written by the diabetic team. This is for you and the midwives looking after you, so we can monitor your gestational diabetes. If the blood sugars or your blood glucose levels become out of target, out of range, then we may need to give you a little bit more insulin as part of your labour. Once you've birthed, your placenta is delivered, the insulin will be discontinued and removed, and then we can help and try and get you back to some normality. Okay, so now we can talk about the postnatal period after you've birthed your baby. The main questions women have for this are going to be hopefully answered for you. Will you need any more treatment? Will baby need any more treatment? Any long-term treatment required? And what will happen if I have another baby? Okay, let's focus on your baby now. Now, like any other baby born, they need to get used to their independent life outside of the womb. Two things we're really going to focus on now are temperature control and feeding. All babies, when they come out, are quite cold, they're wet. We need to encourage skin to skin straight away whilst they're drying. And skin to skin is really important for that natural and the normal development of their brain. It helps you bond, lots of really, really positive things. If your baby's blood sugar remains low and there's any problems or any difficulties in feeding, then the colostrum will be the next best thing we can give to baby. Now, some of you may have already collected this while you're watching this film. For other people, some of you may not have heard of this before. We will talk about this when we first diagnose your gestational diabetes, and your community midwife will have information. Colostrum is that first bit of milk that we can express before baby's born. We usually recommend you do this about 36 weeks, and we have a really lovely film made by the infant feeding specialist from the Trust, and you can watch that. We'll add the link later. You can watch that and understand lots about it. Okay, so let's focus on you now. Now, the good news is after you've had your baby and the placenta's delivered, that gestational diabetes should go away. we ask you to do a couple more checks just to make sure. If those blood sugars are then in target, you can stop and don't need to monitor any further. If they are out of target, then we usually get in contact with the diabetic nurses at Abbey Court or Maidstone, and they can support you and advise you further. Let's finally think about your long-term health. Now, we know 50% of women with gestational diabetes can develop type 2 diabetes later on in life. For this, we then ask you to see your GP and have tests done regularly. The GP, when you have your 6-week check, should initiate this by having, they've had a record of your birth and of your pregnancy, so you can discuss it with them. They'll recommend a test done at 13 weeks and then every year after that. And that's just to maintain your well-being and hopefully maintain the healthy living that we encouraged you at the very beginning of your pregnancy. Now, if we're lucky enough to see you again, we will monitor you for gestational diabetes. We'll monitor at the beginning of pregnancy and during the pregnancy. Some of you may need treatment, some of you may need diet control, some of you may not see gestational diabetes again. This is the end now, finished our little films, and we really, really hope they've been helpful to you. We will put some links up, the little videos that we've used and that we've encouraged and advised, but good luck and enjoy your pregnancy.